Welcome to the All-Star Math Video Tutor. This is Mr. Easter, and the topic of this lesson is solving two-step equations. Here are some reminders. When you're adding and subtracting the constants, you want to group them on one side. Your goal is to isolate the variable, and you want to use inverse operations to solve these two-step equations. Here's our first example. 3n minus 6 equals 15. Our goal is to get the n by itself, and so there are two things on the left side of the equal sign that we would like to move on to the other side. Our 3 and our negative 6. First, let's go ahead and move the negative 6 to the right side of the equation because the n is already on the left side of the equation. The inverse of negative 6 is positive 6. If we do it to one side of the equation, to balance it out, we will do the same thing to the other side of the equation. Our negative 6 and our positive 6 will cancel out, and our 15 plus 6 will end up equaling 21. And we are left with our 3n on the left side of our equation. Our goal is still to get the n by itself, so to get rid of the 3 on the left side, 3 and n are being multiplied, so we would do the inverse of multiplication, which is division, which would make n equal to 7. Don't forget your inverse operations. The inverse of multiplying is our division, and vice versa. And the inverse of addition is our subtraction. And subtraction is the inverse of addition likewise. Our first step in the second example is to move our 5. And since our 5 is positive, because there is no negative side to the left of it, we will subtract 5 from both sides to balance out our equation, which would cancel out our 5's. We'll be left with a negative x, and that would be equal to 12. Now our goal is to solve for x, but we have a negative x. It is understood in math that there is a coefficient of 1 behind every variable. So if we wanted to get rid of our negative behind the x, we could divide by negative 1, because the 1 and the x are next to each other, which is showing multiplication. Do the same thing to the other side, and our x ends up equaling negative 12, because a positive divided by a negative is always a negative. Our next example is b over 2 minus 8 equals negative 10. We already have our letters and our variables on the left side, so we're going to take our 8 and combine it with a negative 10 on the right side of the equation. The inverse of negative 8 is positive 8. So if we balance it out and do the same thing to both sides, we will lose our 8, and on our right side it will become negative 2. And our left side of the equation will still be b over 2. We still have not gotten the b by itself, so to get rid of this 2, because they are being divided, we can multiply both sides by 2, which will get rid of our 2's on this side, and will give us negative 2 times 2, which equals negative 4, and b is equal to negative 4. That is the end of this All-Star Math video lesson.